This week on the show, YouTube Content ID pulls NASA and me down. Olympics dominate, but not on cable. And Tim reveals a Hollywood secret. All this and more on Behind the Video, Episode 15. This episode of Behind the Video is brought to you by the Independent Media Network. The Independent Media Network helps journalists and content creators create their own jobs by building sustainable online businesses. If you're an unemployed or underemployed journalist or content creator, visit imnct.com for more information. Hey everybody, and welcome to Behind the Video. This is episode number 15, and we are back once again with our wonderful and talented co-hosts, starting with Tim Street from Los Angeles. How are you doing, Tim?
Doing well, Lon. I hear you have some news to share this week, but we'll get to that in a second.
We will. We got to introduce Goldie Chan. Hey, Goldie.
Hi, Lon. I also hear that you have news to talk about this week.
I do, and I wish it was like something that I could be really excited about, but it's more aggravating. So let's go over that real quick. So what happened was Sunday night, last Sunday, the Mars rover lands on Mars, which is pretty cool. And I run a little tech site here in Connecticut called cttechjunkie.com where we find the Connecticut connections to things. And believe it or not, Connecticut has a whole boatload of connections to the space program, but we won't get into that at the moment. But we did a live broadcast, and it was a 3-hour thing, and I never obviously expected it to be watched a lot, but it was a fun place for some of the contributors that we've had on the site over the last year to come together and talk about a lot of the stuff we've been following related to the mission, and it was fun. We had a couple hundred viewers over the course of the night. It was decent. So as you know, when you do a Google Plus Hangout like the one we're doing, that Hangout then becomes available on YouTube. And what I often do, as I do with all of my YouTube videos, is I click the monetize button because over the years I've put quite a bit of stuff up, of little value to society, but nonetheless it's of interest to some people along the way. And between all my stuff, I get anywhere from 15 to 30,000 views a month, and that translates into about $20 to $40 a month in revenue that I put back into one of my video hyperlocals. And so the revenue is not a lot, but it's kind of important to me, and it's tangible. So I put the revenue share up and went off to my Rotary meeting locally here. I came back home and found that 5 news agencies had claimed some kind of ownership over the content that I had put up. And what happened was...
You didn't know you were working for them, did you, Lon?
No, I had no idea. But apparently, not only am I working for them, I'm paying them. So what happened was I got these, not takedown notices. These are identified content, meaning that these other agencies, 5 of them, by the way, 6 actually, by the time all this was said and done, they could overlay their own programming or advertising on top of my stuff, meaning that an ad would run on my content and I wouldn't get paid for it. They would. And what infuriated me about the whole situation was that, first of all the footage in there was stuff that I shot in my basement lair, which we experimented with when we first started this show. And the other footage that was there was of NASA stuff, things that NASA puts into the public domain. It's government property. It is something that any news organization, any individual, in fact, you can even do some commercial activity around NASA footage, provided you're not implying their endorsement that stuff's free to use.
And TV did it.
TV did it too. Everybody used it.
Yeah.
And so what happened was that YouTube has this system called ContentID, and when it started, I thought it was actually a good idea because it kind of became this leveling point where if I was making a lip sync video with some commercial song, it wouldn't get pulled down. It would remain up on YouTube, and if I was just looking for some views, the artists of that song and their record label would benefit from it. But it has since been, almost, it turned into this beast that once you get into the Content ID club, you can put anything in there and say that you own it, and then enforce that copyright, quote unquote, on anyone who posts something to YouTube automatically. So there's no human intervention in there, and it basically gives first the right of takedown to this quote unquote rights holder, and not to give much of a chance for the little guy or gal to make a counterclaim on it. And as a result, what's happening is we're getting a ton of these frivolous kinds of claims getting out there. In particular, the NASA thing was a great example of this problem. And in fact, one of NASA's own videos got pulled down completely They make the damn footage.
Right, while the event was going on, right?
Yeah, right. While it was going on, or just right after, they put it up there, and the Scripps news service must have beat them to it and put their own news story up. And apparently, for Scripps, this was not the first time they had done that. So, you know, it was horrible. And in fact, a NASA spokesperson told Ars Technica, who also wrote a story about me yesterday, that this is happening all the time and it's driving them crazy. And NASA's, of course, not trying to put any revenue on their stuff. They're just trying to keep it up there to share it with the public. Now, in my case, what's been happening over the last several months is that nearly every video I post now gets some kind of content ID thing applied to it, and I'm getting more and more of these claims of ownership, and a lot of them center around stock music that I'm buying from some of these buyout firms. So stockmusic.net is one I've used. I've used Footage Firm because they give you a whole bunch of stuff pretty cheap, and you have a license to use it, and in fact the license allows you to use it on YouTube and to get this revenue generated. But what's happening is that a lot of these stock music firms are licensing the music from the artist, and then that artist is also licensing it to a number of other firms. You know, they're kind of like distributors for this content. And some of the other firms who don't own the music are claiming ownership of the music because they got into Content ID, and then go after just about anyone who uses that music, whether or not they have any right to.
Corporate warfare. It's great.
It's fantastic, right? Exactly. And so, you know, and Footage Firm told me that they do not ever do this, so they're not doing it, but their competitors are doing it. And the biggest thing that really ticks me off in this whole instance here, because let's face it, I'm only out maybe $1 or $2 beyond the aggravation, is that people that don't complain, people that don't fight those rights disputes, are seeing their revenue for the stuff that they produce go somewhere else. Yeah. And it's incredibly aggravating. So I put a thing on Reddit, and it got, you know, up on the front page in the middle of the night, and I was just sitting in bed at 3 o'clock in the morning replying on my iPad as this thing was erupting. And Ars Technica contacted me yesterday and wrote a pretty nice article about the whole situation. And, you know, I'd love to talk to both of you about this, because, you know, some folks who, generally 99% of the people that read my plight supported my issue and have had similar problems as well. Some people have said, well, you know, just go use something else. And, you know, for, you know, a Bernie Sue or somebody who's got some following, you know, maybe you can do that. But in my experience as you know, doing small stuff that, you know, that's building an audience slowly, you can't start somewhere else. You can't start with a website and a server at this point and expect people to come in and watch it, no matter how good you are, because there's no viewership here. So, you know, it's just got to get fixed. And, you know, it's one of these things where I think Google has kind of just stepped back from it. They put the system in place. It got them out of a $1 billion liability with a lawsuit with some record labels, but now it's kind of running amok, and it needs to get addressed. But wanted to just throw it out there to both of you. Maybe start with Tim. You know, what have you been hearing? I know you just said you had an issue with this too.
Right.
How do we fix the problem?
You know, Scripps did apologize for what they did to, you know, what they inadvertently did to NASA. So they were sorry about it. And I mean, I think YouTube has to figure out how to solve this problem. There's got to be some algorithm for figuring this out. For me, I shot a music video last year. It was a music video where I was the entire crew. And so that music video went up on Julia Price's account, and then I posted it on my account. Once I posted on my account, it got flagged. And so, you know, I was like, you know what, I'm not going to waste the time on it. You know, so I just let it go. But yeah, it happens all the time.
And what happens too is when you go to contest this thing, they threaten you that if you're making a frivolous counterclaim, that if you're claiming you own this and you don't, we can kick you off YouTube. And
right.
It's like you look at this thing like, yikes! I could get all my stuff could disappear overnight if for some reason I'm considered to be making a false claim that I have a right to use this. Yep. So I could see it scaring off a lot of people, and I can also see there's millions of dollars here flowing out of like pockets of people that should be earning it. And
I think Goldie can fix it. How are you going to fix it?
Goldie, let's fix this thing. We want to hear your solution.
I mean, I have no silver bullet here, unfortunately, and as long as you start out with something, especially YouTube, you start with a site that starts so small and you have so I would say tiny pieces of content originally, and it just grows to this behemoth. And then you have the legal team come in and say, well, how can we just be, as Lon said, completely hands-off? How can we have the content people, argue this amongst themselves? And I think that's what's happening here is I think YouTube wants to be a little hands-off in this situation, and it's unfortunate for the smaller content producers. And once again, I totally agree with that it's not reasonable to just recreate content anytime they say, your content ID, you're using somebody else's content. That's just not, it's just not affordable, I guess, for smaller content creators. Nor is it affordable to migrate that content to an individual server where you have to build that audience from scratch, because as we know, we get on YouTube because there's already that audience.
And the other thing too is that I actually like YouTube. I hate to say it, but I like it. I like the platform. I love the Hangout platform. It makes this show possible. Just because it's so easy to implement, and it's just so easy for for others to use and to create a broadcast. And one of the biggest advantages of the Hangout platform is the fact that it is very unintrusive to the viewer, in that they're not getting bombarded with ads that interrupt the content as we're doing it live and everything else. So
Lon, I'm curious. Did you get any good suggestions off of your Reddit thread as to what to fix this?
Well, the biggest suggestion was, oh, you should just sue them, and a lot of folks had said that. There's so much litigiousness going on in these days. I just want it fixed. I want the thing that I love to work the way it should work. But I think a lot of it centered around putting some consequences on those who are making frivolous claims or those who are being lazy about it. And I really think that those who put claims on the videos I had here, as Tim said, also, one of the organizations apologized to NASA. Nobody apologized to me, by the way. But there was one guy from the Hangout.
I apologize.
Thank you, Tim, on behalf of the internet. I should say one of the Google Plus Hangout people did come into my thread on Google Plus, and to their credit, did offer to try to make it right. And in fairness, this situation got resolved in 24 hours. So that was good. But
they give you some gift certificates to the local bowling alley? What they do?
No, none of that. My problem just kind of resolved itself. And then, but I think, Goldie, one of the things that I heard a lot from in the Reddit thing is just get some consequences there for making a frivolous claim. And I think it's easy to disseminate frivolous from just an innocent mistake.
Right.
Because that, I think, is the bigger issue. And in the case of the stock music stuff, I will tell you that it is grossly, frivolous right now. I can tell you that. And in talking to some of these firms who sell this stuff, it's impacting their business, because I've stopped buying. I don't buy stock music that often, but occasionally you have something you need stock music for. I'm not buying from certain places because they can't guarantee me that they are the first right holder, that they're the one that can clearly lock it down. And in the case of the Ars Technica article, one of the top comments that got put up to the top was someone who uploaded a video with white noise in it, and somebody had copyrighted white noise. I mean, it's like,
that's great.
It's absurd. So, I don't. The problem that also we have here is that this is such a sensitive area for YouTube because of the the record industry and the movie industry have been very, very aggressive about enforcing their copyrights, and Google has been reluctant to talk about how this system works. Clearly, more people are in it now, submitting content for the Content ID system than have been before. That's evident. I've applied for it because I feel like I should have a right to protect my stuff too, and I'm not going to go out and start creating frivolous claims myself, but I want to have that same level playing field for the content that I produce. So I think what really needs to happen is that that same onus we put on the user, scaring the crap out of them, telling them that they're going to get kicked off YouTube if they screw around, should also apply to those who abuse the Content ID system. So we'll have to see what happens there.
How do you really feel, Lon?
I feel less angry than I did yesterday. But
good. That's good. I'm glad you used this podcast to get it out.
To vent and get it out. So and I actually thank Ars Technica and Boing Boing for covering this too, because I think it's been bothering me for a while, and this incident really kind of put it into perspective for a lot of folks, and it's hard it's hard to get started, and I think my biggest fear, and we'll end it here as far as all this topic goes, but my biggest fear is that I think the internet has leveled the playing field significantly for people looking to start their own thing, to the point where both of you work in a field where you're helping. There's jobs that have been created to help build this infrastructure. Sure. And we're at risk of getting back to where it was really hard to get noticed or to build an audience, or you had to go and get that corporate gatekeeper to give you the permission to go do what you want to do.
Well, unfortunately, I think that it behooves the powers that be that they've got to do their best to get the genie back in the bottle.
Yep.
So this is a fight that we're going to keep fighting. I can't see the little guy winning here. I mean, maybe I'm wrong because I want to be wrong, but it does seems pretty tough. When you don't have billions of dollars and 5 companies control over 85% of all media.
Right.
Speaking of which,
we did have
some rankings going on this week. In the broadcast world, we had some crazy shows going on that weren't related to the Olympics. Big Bang Theory, number 10, 60 Minutes, number 9, NCIS. Looks like it was a good week for CBS in the top 10, but NBC with the Summer Olympics took everything else in primetime. And did you guys watch any Olympics?
Yeah, I've been watching quite a bit of it. I'm watching the broadcast version, and I won't gripe again this week about the fact that I because I'm a cord cutter, I can't even pay to watch the feeds on there. But it's been pretty good. NBC has done a great job, as they always do. But I haven't been able to watch the streams. Goldie, have you streamed anything?
I streamed a little bit of men's gymnastics, so that was kind of fun.
Lost Remote, which is a site that's been covers a lot of online video and whatnot, has some results from the Olympics here as far as the statistics so far. There have been this was as of like about a day ago when they published the article, so it's probably increased by then. But NBC claims that streams are up 182% versus Beijing in 2008. So 75 million total video streams so far. 34 million have streamed live in some way, shape, or form. They've had 744 million page views. That's not so bad if you've got a good CPM, right? And the 2 apps are the top apps that the NBC has. By the way, there's Live Extra, and then there's just the NBC Olympic app, and both of those are leading the top 10 on.
I've been watching on the Live Extra app, and it's pretty decent. There are a few quirks with it, few problems with it, and but they're delivering commercials there, and the commercials aren't as repetitive as with other live events. It seems more like the TV broadcast. I mean, you do see a lot of the same commercials over and over, but it's not like you see the same 3 commercials over and over. It's more like you see the same 30 or 40 commercials over and over. So a lot different there, but a nice app, nice job by NBC on that app.
Yeah, it was a great. They've done well, and my wife, like I said on a prior show, was watching the Tour de France on an app that we paid for, and she loved it. It was quite well done, especially because you can do the AirPlay. Were you able to AirPlay, Tim, from the NBC app?
I haven't tried that. I should try that later today. I'm noticing that we did have Brian Parker join the chat, and we'll get him in on the Google Hangout in a second here. Hopefully some other people will join us as well.
Yep, Brian is a local producer here in Connecticut as well, and has been feeling the wrath of ContentID. Another thing, we'll get you in a minute, Brian. I'd love to hear what you have to say. Also, though, NBC released the top streaming clips of the week, and the top one is the USA Women's Gymnastics winning gold, 1.4 million streams. Michael Phelps winning his gold, Gabby Douglas winning the all-around. So a lot of the things that actually were out there in the media, the hype that had been built up around some of the media coverage of those events were kind of leading it. Although there's still one from Beijing on,
I noticed that.
on the top there, and that's the USA men's basketball semifinal, not even the final. So it's kind of neat to see that. I bet you people come back to those basketball clips because there's a lot of NBA stars that are in there. So it's been pretty interesting there. Cable still exists though, right, Tim?
Yeah, it does. I'm surprised that NBC's been putting Olympic coverage in the cable world as well on MSNBC and CNBC, but it didn't show up in the top 5. Number 5, NASCAR, Sprint Cup, True Blood. Number 4, WWE in spots 3 and 2, and The Closer from TNT at number 1, which, hey, there's a scripted show, made it through, right?
There you
and
go.
Speaking of story, there's something about M. Night Shyamalan is heading to television.
Goldie, you got something to say about that.
I mean, you know what, as a huge nerd and hearing the uproar from the nerd world, I will just say that what he did with Avatar was not popular.
Can you tell us? I missed this. So what happened? What did he do with Avatar?
So Avatar is a cartoon that's based in the U.S. and it has Japanese animation qualities to it, and it has an extremely fervent fan base, which I was, of course, the only one at Comic-Con here. But if you went to Comic-Con, you'd see that there's all these giant groups that form around this one cartoon show. And M. Night Shyamalan directed the live-action version of Avatar, and it was just I didn't watch it, but I hear it was complete crap. And so
but he did such a great job with Sixth Sense. I mean, come on.
Which was such a long time ago.
1999.
Yeah. I did like Signs. I don't know if any of you saw Signs, but I thought that was actually a pretty decent movie.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see that one?
Is that the one with Mel Gibson?
Yeah, the one with Mel Gibson. And what I liked about it was I watched this alone one night and on my surround sound, and the aliens running around on the roof was pretty in your face. So that was kind of fun. So maybe more the technical achievement more than the story was there.
But the M. Night's show his new show is going to be on Sci-Fi, right?
Yeah, it's going to be on Sci-Fi, and it looks like he's going to be getting into the process of getting that going. He's also directing but not writing a movie that Will Smith is going to be in as well. So,
well, Will Smith kind of has that mantra that it has to have a creature in the movie, or he's not doing it.
Well, that's intriguing. I never, now that you mention it, he does a lot of creature movies.
Yeah, that's his thing. It has to have some kind of creature. Yeah.
And speaking of the box office, The Dark Knight Rises is still on top. Total Recall launched.
Yes.
You couldn't. Oh, did you see Total Recall, Goldie?
I haven't seen Total Recall yet. I'm just excited that The Dark Knight Rises is still #1 in the box office.
So it is still dominating there. The comic book characters are leading.
Jessica Biel and Colin Farrell are in Total Recall, and it's not really a remake. It's a reboot.
It's a reboot, right, because they're not on Mars this time, right?
Right.
And, what timing that would have been if it was about Mars? You had the rover there. You could have...
Yeah, the Mars rover. I got to tell you, I saw one of those infographics, and the funny thing was that it said ironic, the first real-life flying saucer is from Earth, and it landed on Mars.
Yeah, right. It's funny because it's true. It really is.
There you go.
And they've done a great job promoting it this week, despite the fact that they're getting pulled down every time they put their own video up.
What are you going to do?
What are you going to do?
Read Diary of a Wimpy Kid at number 3?
This one looks great. This one actually, I saw the trailer, and we're all old enough now to have been through middle school. And I was having painful flashbacks because they just really captured, just in the trailer at least, the life of a middle schooler. So I think that this one looks pretty decent. So I'm looking forward to seeing that one.
I think that's why the original book that this is based off of is so popular with elementary and middle school kids, And that's why they're doing a movie based off of it, because everyone's been a little tortured.
They have been. And you know what's cool, too, is that it's got a little, at least in the trailer, it's got a little bit of that gross-out humor, but it's at the age level of kids to some extent. So it's kind of fun to see that in the works, because middle school is it's tough, really tough.
Well, there look like some fun trailers for movies that are opening this weekend.
Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff opening this weekend. You got The Bourne Legacy, so Jason Bourne will undoubtedly get shot at and beat up more. The Campaign looks really fun. That's a Will Ferrell movie.
Yeah,
he always kind of plays
great.
the same character, right? Just in different situations.
Yeah, well, that's what movie stars do, Lon.
Yeah.
They play the same character because they're a movie star. But
Lon,
Zach Galifianakis.
I told you about Hollywood.
Oh, is that? Wow,
secret?
that's the secret.
Yeah. I mean, Harrison Ford hasn't done his transvestite film yet, but you never know. The Campaign looks awesome. Hope Springs, I don't know, not really my kind of thing. I love Meryl Streep. I love Tommy Lee Jones. It just doesn't look fun.
Yeah, a couple counseling is not my thing. So
2 Days in New York, romantic comedy with Chris Rock, Red Hook Summer, Nitro Circus the movie, and Freelancers. So
lots of stuff opening. It's the waning days of summer. So we'll see what how much more money they can extract from us as we go. And related to that, and I know both of you are very excited about this because the Avengers 2, Joss Whedon signed on to direct. Did he name his price?
I don't know if that's come out yet or not, but man, who better to handle the franchise?
That's just printed money. And Goldie, are you excited for Avengers 2?
I am super excited. I thought Avengers 1 was really fun, so I'm excited to see what they do with Avengers 2. I have a feeling my little nerd gut instinct says that they might try to do some sort of romance thing between Black Widow and Nighthawk, especially since he is now in that movie he is in the movie coming out, The Bourne Legacy, as the new Jason Bourne character.
Oh. Interesting. So he's getting some cachet contracts there. So that's good for good for career movement there for him for sure. So let's move on to YouTube this week. Despite my gripes, I still love the platform. And we're going to change how we do our top 5 picks this week, or at least the last 2 weeks, because there's always like 4 or 5 people that tend to dominate the tops each week. So we're going to try to pull out things that you may not have heard of. The one I found this week actually was a legitimate top 2, and that's FPS Russia. We've talked about him briefly in a prior show. I can't remember which one.
You're a big fan of this guy. He's the guy that will go through a drive-through in a tank.
Yeah, he goes through a drive-through in a tank. And he speaks with a Russian accent. Although if you do some searching on this guy, he's just the dude from Kansas, and he really doesn't speak Russian. But how
does he get away with, like, in this day and age with all this arsenal? I mean, does he have to have any kind of permits or anything? I mean, he's got tanks and guns, and they're not just little guns.
No, this week he's showcasing an automatic shotgun from Russia. I don't know how he gets this stuff, but
it's crazy.
I'd imagine he's got the proper ability to own this stuff. A lot of these things you can get in on if you buy them through certain ways, or you have
through ways, black market, Russian black market.
Yeah,
what are you
talking about?
Go through
gun shows, that kind of thing. You could actually get most of this stuff. And I think Brian might be able to give us some insight because he has a collection himself. But you can certainly get this stuff. And what he does usually at the end of the show, and this is what I think gives him his 3 million views on about everything he does, is that he blows up something at the end. So this week he decided to take his shotgun and blow up a refrigerator, and his cameraman got hit with shrapnel. Had to be taken to the hospital. Not before he said, I have to take my cameraman to the hospital now, so we'll end this one here. But the cameraman was okay. They posted on Twitter the shrapnel wound that the cameraman endured, which looked pretty bad to me, but he was fine. And but usually he blows up things that are a little less dangerous, like watermelons and bottles of soda and stuff. But it was kind of interesting. So
Brian, how many tanks do you have?
Well, do you want? Just American tanks, or all nationalities?
You know,
Maybe
I'm thinking,
tanks,
I was curious if you
tanks.
had any Russian or actually any of those hard-to-find Yugoslavian tanks.
Well, you know, a lot of the Yugoslavian tanks, they're kind of in pieces, so it's a rebuild. It's a hobby. It's a Saturday, you know.
The
to really
Yugo
get some of those.
tanks.
Yeah, the Yugo tanks. Actually, we were looking at Yugos yesterday with a friend of mine who's buying a car. Just for fun, we looked online to see if we could find a Yugo to buy. You can buy them at cars.com for $10. You can buy a Yugo for $10. We almost decided to buy one just for fun.
And to weaponize it, you can you have to spend a little bit more, I would imagine.
Well, no, it's automatically a weapon. You know how that car got its name. I'm not getting in that car. You go.
Yeah.
I remember we had to go out too far off track. We used to have a Yugo dealer in town here, and they had a sport edition with a pinstripe down the center of it. That was like the hot rod of the Yugo.
There was nothing else that was different. It just had a pinstripe.
Exactly. So we do have a few pieces of other related news though, and this is actually kind of exciting. And I think Tim, you're going to really love this story. This is from GigaOM, and they are finding that consumers watched an increased ad load on premium video, and this is according to Freewheel, and I think they were looking at 91% completion rates for long-form content with ads on it, and that's the highest that they've seen since 2010. Now, Tim, you work in the online advertising world here. What's the feeling out there?
Well, there's premium content that is either on your PC or on a mobile device, and Freewheel pretty much dominates the PC experience in terms of serving ads. And those ads people can't skip through. So if you've got great content, people are going to sit through the ads to watch them. And the other thing is the ads are highly targeted for the most part. You know, they're really able to increase that yield and target those ads. So people are going to watch more.
Yeah, and I think people are beginning to tolerate watching ads just a little bit more than they may have been in the past, because the content is improving too to some degree, making it worth it. Goldie, what are you advertising on your stuff these days, or are you mostly just getting network stuff to be inserted?
Just mostly network stuff to be inserted. I agree, though. I think that, and I'm hoping that ad agencies are getting more savvy with their advertising content that they're creating. There is a hope that commercials will be more bearable to watch in the future and will be more interesting.
Because one thing YouTube does do quite well is they do have, and this is the advertisers don't like this, I don't think, but they do offer the ability to skip an ad after the first 5 seconds, and I think that's kind of a really decent trade-off between content creators who obviously don't want a lot of pre-roll in front of their video versus the other side of the argument, which of course are the advertisers who want as much pre-roll as possible, and it seems to work pretty well because I have found myself watching the rest of an ad that I found interesting and not skipping through it, and also to some degree I'm also watching ads to give benefit to those producers who put that content together. But to your point about the savviness too, I've seen a lot of stuff not give me the message I need to hear in the first 5 seconds, right? Like they just put up their 12-minute video.
Yeah, I was noticing that last night. There was some European film opening to a commercial. I'm like, I have no idea what this is about. Skip.
It's crazy. So, well, we do have our caller here, Brian. Let's put the calls on here. We'll hit the virtual button. Brian Parker has joined us. He was a guest host on the show a few weeks ago when Tim couldn't make it. But Brian runs a network called On the Horn here in Connecticut. They do a bunch of audio and video programming. And Brian, what's on your mind?
Well, there's so many things. Of course, just a lot of stuff venting about YouTube. They did this to me too, and they continue to do it. I had signed up at your request. Actually, most of my frustration has come from things you've requested.
Suggested, not requested, mind you.
Well, I don't know. You sort of make requests too. But they take down my stuff all the time when I was doing the ad sharing. And a lot of it is because, we're in a studio, and a lot of, the studio doesn't change much. It's really the color of people's shirts. That's really the only thing that changes, and we use the same opening liners and sweeps. It's like a regular radio station. And so whatever their algorithm is that identifies, hey, this is a duplicate of something else, I think maybe they automatically, on my behalf, make a claim that I'm using copyrighted material from On the Horn, and
well,
then
are you
take
part of
down
the
the
Content
video.
ID system?
I am.
Oh, so you got into the Content ID system? You were able to
We
submit
did.
yourself? Oh, really?
We were all good. Everything was fine. We do other stuff where I did a Jerry Labriel. Who, it doesn't matter who he is, but he's a politician here in Connecticut, and he was on WATR with us, which is a Waterbury radio station, and I was taking some video of it so we could throw it up on YouTube, and it was great. But it's from the same angle, it's the same day, and I've edited out really our questions just so we could get his his voice on there and his video, and they won't even let me upload a different one because it's all from the same angle, and they can't quite tell that the audio is different, so they won't let me upload anymore. They say you already have a duplicate of this.
So your own Content ID account is blocking you from uploading video you produced on other accounts? Is that?
I can't tell you how frustrating that. No, it's blocking me from uploading videos on the same account, the On the Horn YouTube channel.
And it's saying that you own. It's saying that you own
It either says that this is a duplicate of something else that you've already posted, which it's not. It's just the audio is slightly different.
Oh, I see. I see.
Or it's I have the studio with the logo and all that kind of stuff and all the lower thirds. All of that is the same. And what happens is it kind of like automatically submits a claim against myself.
That's really interesting. I wonder if that's in an effort to stop the spammers from just uploading the same crap over and over and over and cut down on because they do that. They'll make one commercial, and it's a commercial that they've made using PowerPoint, and it's horrific, and they'll just upload it over and over and over, and that just eats up a lot of resources at YouTube.
No, I wouldn't doubt. I had take a little exception to you calling me uploading crap, but but it could be that. But the solution is get out there and sell your own stuff and get rid of this revenue sharing from YouTube. And that's where we are. We don't do it anymore. And I think that's better for our viewers. They don't have to sit through it. You know what I was wondering about, though, was it was interesting about the skipping the ad thing that you were saying. And when I go in and watch Jon Stewart on Hulu, sometimes they offer me a long commercial, which is like 2.5 minutes, or several commercials that are all 30 seconds interspersed. And I always pick, let me just watch the first commercial and then I'm good. But I'm interested to see what you guys say. Would you rather have that one long commercial, 2.5 minutes in the beginning, and then watch your content uninterrupted, or would you rather get interrupted for shorter increments and see a commercial?
Depends if it's a trailer or not. If it's a movie trailer for 2 minutes, I'll go.
Yeah, usually it's like a car commercial or something, but
yeah, I was watching. I think for me it's a matter of what I'm looking to get. One of the things that drives me crazy is when the pre-roll is longer than the content I'm trying to watch. and I hope CNN is listening, because that's a little aggravating. I've gotten to the point. I'd love to hear Goldie's thought on this too. I've gotten to the point where I'm okay with an ad, provided its value is equal to the value of the content I wish to consume. And if I'm seeing a 30-second pre-roll on a 5-second, 10-second, 20-second clip, it's not fun. But Goldie, how do you balance that? I mean, advertisers want as much as possible. I mean, and you've probably got content creators that you work with that want as little as possible. How do you balance that?
Right. I mean, there is some, unfortunately, if you're using YouTube's advertising system, there isn't really a balance. You get what they give you, right? And so, and you balance it based off of what your user base says back to you. And if they start to get really angry about these 5-second pre-roll clips that go on to longer ads, then you have to balance that out with, okay, what other options do I have? And I agree with Brian that, honestly, at this point, it's just almost better to go without YouTube and to go with other sponsors who will be happy with something at the end of the clip.
Right. I'm curious about that, Brian. Are you selling pre-rolls for your YouTube content yourself and trafficking that?
No, we do the commercials inside the actual content itself. So we do what you would consider at a regular radio station live reads, and we can get big ones. We have Amazon.com, we have law offices, we have accountants, we have we have big boy sponsors, and that's great. And I think that's really, there's a fear in asking someone to give you money for your content. And I think a lot of the YouTubes and Google and whoever else, they're taking advantage of that fear of people just going out there and getting advertising themselves. And it's remarkably easy to call these guys and say,
sure,
this is what I got.
But the tough part there, to take a counterpoint to it, is that it's not scalable what you're doing. So if that sponsor that you've done a read into your program stops paying you, that read's still there, and you can't swap it out with something else. So that back catalog, if you're doing evergreen content, that's a real concern. If you have topical content that's only going to be valid for a week or a month, then you're fine.
I think that makes the content creator honest, though, because much like I don't like the fight, like the big Napster fight over the artists, and they were saying, oh, we're not getting paid on this stuff. I don't like the fact that people get royalties for stuff they did millions and millions of years ago. You want to make a lot of money, you go out there and you do a concert. So I think this evergreen thing, I don't like it. I think it keeps content providers honest. The sponsor paid you to create that content. That's what you get. You get what that sponsor did. Now get off your butt and go out there and make some more content and get another sponsor. That's kind of my feeling on it.
Yeah, and I think there's probably a good balance across all different means of doing it, depending on what content you're producing. And for a lot of folks, if you have enough traffic, as we're seeing with a lot of these top tier YouTube folks, you can make a decent living doing it, and you don't have to do a lot of that sales, because Google is basically your ad agency or your network that's selling it for you. So, but every model works differently, and there's a lot of different ways to go about it. My biggest fear, and we'll kind of close out the show with this, is that there's a lot of people who are doing a lot of hard work who don't even understand what's going on here and are losing money just to people making frivolous advertising, or too lazy to pull out public domain footage that might appear in other people's videos. And the best part is, they're almost rewarded for that laziness or that frivolity, in that they can collect money so long as nobody complains about it. So it's needs to be some tweaks involved there, but I think hopefully this week brought some attention to that. So Tim, where can people find you on the interwebs?
Just Google me, Tim Street on Google.
Tim Street. And you can also find Tim Street's ebook vids on the iTunes bookstore, the iBookstore, and it's doing quite well, and I have a copy of it on my iPad. Goldie, where can people find you?
People can always find me on Twitter at GoldieChan, or they can find me on Facebook at Goldie.Chan.
What about the Pinterest?
Or you can find me on Pinterest at GoldiePins.
Are you not pinning as much? Is that why you didn't mention it?
You know what? I'm not actually. I think I went through that pinning phase, and now I'm off of Pinterest. I'm a little past Pinterest. I still love it, but I'm not obsessed with it quite like I was.
I haven't checked it out yet, but I'm going to check out the Fancy, which I think Apple has developed an interest in, to the point where I believe Tim Cook is actually contributing to it. So I want to.
Yes, I think you should definitely check out the Fancy.
Because if I can organize my fanciness, I would be much happier about that. You can listen to my gripe about Pinterest on a prior show. And Mr. Brian Parker, where can people find you and all your stuff?
OnTheHorn.com. You can follow us on Twitter at OnTheHorn500. And I just opened up my own personal. I'm kind of divesting myself from the On The Horn brand and making my own brand now. So you can look me up at Brian Parker 500 on Twitter.
And Brian also has a basement lair, and he was actually one of the participants on our live thing, and perhaps that's why I got flagged, because Brian gets flagged everywhere on YouTube apparently. So
yeah, you throw out my name, it goes downhill.
You're like,
our Google Plus Hangout just got flagged.
Oh, geez. Well, on that note, we will we will make this show a wrap, and we'll be back again next week on Behind the Video. Thanks for joining us. Stories for this episode were compiled by producer Jason Perrier. Follow him on Twitter at JASONPERRIER. Behind the Video is a production of Ape Digital Incorporated and the Independent Media Network, LLC. All rights reserved.